The lobby of the Marble Crest Grand Hotel in downtown Chicago shimmered with wealth. Crystal chandeliers, velvet sofas, and the constant hum of business deals worth millions. Outside, the August heat pressed against the glass doors like a furnace. The air conditioning system had failed an hour ago, and tempers were rising. Near the reception desk, a woman in her mid-30s, tall, elegant, dressed in a white designer suit, stood with her arms crossed. Alexis Grant, billionaire CEO of Grant Tech Industries, was in town for a crucial investor meeting. The heat didn't bother her as much as the chaos did. A group of international guests was arguing loudly in different languages, and the hotel staff looked helpless. "Get it fixed," she said sharply to the manager. "Now." The manager, sweating through his shirt, nodded nervously. "Ma'am, we've called everyone. The best technician in the city is on his way." Moments later, the revolving door creaked open, and in walked Ethan Miles, a lanky man in his late 20s, wearing a faded work uniform and carrying a small toolbox. His boots were dusty, his hands calloused, and yet when he looked up, his eyes carried quiet confidence. The receptionist blinked. "You're the AC guy?" "Yes, ma'am," he said calmly. "Where's the main unit?" She hesitated. "You're alone." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's usually enough." Alexis watched him for a moment, skeptical, impatient. The young man's clothes didn't match the luxury around him, but something about his posture, the way he carried himself with quiet dignity, made her pause. He walked straight past the stairs and headed for the service room. Within minutes, he had the metal panel off the AC unit and wires spread across the floor. His hands moved fast, methodical, sure. Outside, the guests grew louder. One man shouted in French, another in Arabic. A woman was speaking rapid Mandarin, frustrated and flushed from the heat. The hotel staff stood frozen, unable to understand a word. That's when Ethan's voice cut through the noise, calm, fluent, and steady. "Monsieur, s'il vous plaît, quelques minutes de plus," he said in perfect French. The French guest blinked, stunned. Ethan turned to the woman and continued in Mandarin, explaining that the system was almost ready. Then he switched to Spanish, then German, each language flowing effortlessly, each sentence spoken with care. The entire lobby went silent. Alexis stared, completely taken aback. You speak all those languages?" He nodded without looking up from his work. "7, ma'am." Helps when the world stops talking and starts shouting. Within minutes, the AC roared back to life. A wave of cool air swept through the lobby, and a collective sigh of relief followed. The French guest patted him on the back, the Mandarin-speaking woman thanked him with a smile, and the manager nearly fainted from relief. Ethan stood, wiped his hands with a rag, and nodded. "System's good now. Shouldn't give you trouble for a while." The manager rushed forward, shaking his hand. "You saved us. I'll make sure you get a bonus." But Alexis wasn't done. She stepped forward, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "You work for a repair company?" He shrugged. "Freelance, mostly. Jobs come and go. Been saving up for a small business license." Her expression softened. "How does a man who speaks 7 languages end up fixing air conditioners?" He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Because people still need air more than they need words, ma'am. My dad always said fixing things keeps you grounded." Alexis studied him, the humility, the intelligence, the quiet pride. There was something magnetic about him, something real, in a room full of pretense. "Come by my office tomorrow," she said finally. "Grant Tech needs someone like you, someone who can solve problems and talk to people. I'll make sure you're not fixing air conditioners for long." Ethan blinked. "Are you serious?" Completely," she replied. "We're launching an international division. You might fit better than you think." The next day, Ethan walked into the Grant Tech headquarters, polished shoes, hair neatly combed, toolbox still in hand. The receptionist led him to the top floor, where Alexis was waiting by the panoramic window overlooking Chicago's skyline. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, smiling. "Didn't think you were serious," he admitted. "Oh, I was," she replied. "Someone who stays calm under pressure, fixes what others can't, and treats people with respect. That's rare. She offered him a contract, a technical communication position with a salary 10 times what he'd ever made. Ethan hesitated for a second, then smiled softly. "I'll take it," he said. "But if the air conditioner breaks down again, I'm charging extra." Alexis laughed, the kind of genuine laugh that echoed through the glass walls and startled even her assistant outside. As he left the office that day, Alexis watched him go, a man who'd walked in as a poor mechanic but left as something far more valuable. Later, when her investors asked about the sudden new hire, she simply said, "Sometimes the smartest people aren't in boardrooms. They're out there fixing what we break." And for the first time in a long while, the billionaire CEO realized intelligence wasn't always dressed in suits. Sometimes it came with grease-stained hands and a heart that never quit.